In the annals of human history, some stories refuse to be closed. They are cold cases, etched not in police files, but in stone. In the 18th century, along the muddy banks of the Taunton River in Massachusetts, a farmer named John Danforth stumbled upon one such enigma, a 40-ton boulder covered in a tapestry of symbols he had never seen before. At first, the great stone was dismissed. Local wisdom held that it was the work of the region's indigenous peoples. But as scholars, including the famed Puritan minister Cotton Mather, began to study its deep-cut petroglyphs, a profound mystery emerged. The lines and figures belonged to no known Native American culture. The Dighton Rock, as it came to be known, was an artifact without a past. Standing 1.5 meters high and over 3 meters long, the rock became a canvas for centuries of speculation. Researchers from Yale University saw in its markings the lost script of the Phoenicians, daring seafarers of the ancient Mediterranean. The theory was staggering, that these mariners had crossed the Atlantic thousands of years before Columbus. Others argued for a Norse origin, suggesting the symbols were Viking runes, a long-lost message from the settlers of Vinland. In the 1990s, a Chinese tourist even claimed to recognize an ancient Mongolian script. While the academic world now cautiously attributes the carvings to a forgotten Algonquin or Iroquois tribe, no one can say for certain. The stone keeps its silence. But not all historical enigmas are buried in the earth. Some descend from the heavens, in full view of thousands. The date was October 27th, 1954. At the Stadio Artemio Franchi in Florence, Italy, a football match was in full swing. 10,000 fans roared as their teams battled on the pitch below. Then, just after half-time, an uncanny silence fell over the stadium. The players stopped. The ball rolled to a halt. Every face, on the field and in the stands, turned upward. Moving silently across the afternoon sky were more than a dozen gleaming, egg-shaped objects, maneuvering in a formation that defied any known aviation technology. For several minutes, the crowd watched, transfixed in a state of collective disbelief. As the objects vanished, a second, stranger phenomenon began. A fineg to surfaces, but would disintegrate upon touch, leaving no trace. From an ancient message locked in stone to a fleeting spectacle witnessed by a city, these moments tear at the fabric of our accepted reality. They are reminders that the past is not a settled landscape, but a shifting frontier where the deepest truths may yet lie waiting just beyond the limits of our understanding. The roar was a physical thing, a wave of sound that washed over the city of Florence. Inside the Stadio Artemio Franchi, a crowd of 10,000 gave voice to the tribal passions of football, as their heroes from Fiorentina landed exquisite strikes against their rivals from Pistoiese. It was the 27th of October, 1954. The autumn air was mild, the sky a placid, slightly overcast canvas above the pitch. As the halftime whistle blew, a tide of humanity flowed from the stands into the stadium's concourses. Thousands sought coffee and refreshments, their chatter filling the brief interlude with predictions and analysis. They returned to their seats for the second half, the anticipation renewed, the collective energy of the stadium once again focused on the 22 men on the field below. The match resumed with the same thrilling intensity with which it had begun. And then, something changed. It was not a sudden sound, but a sudden absence of one. A few spectators, their eyes drawn from the game for a moment, looked up. Then, on the pitch itself, a player
This is where things get really interesting. What you're about to hear might explain why this was never meant to be discovered.
froze. Ardico Magnini, a star of the Fiorentina side, stopped mid-stride, the ball forgotten at his feet. He stood, a statue on the green, his gaze fixed on the sky. One bipole faltered, then collapsed into a profound, unnerving hush. In a slow, synchronized motion, thousands of heads tilted towards the heavens. They were transfixed, paralyzed by a sight so alien, so utterly outside the realm of their experience that it defied immediate comprehension. Hanging silently above the stadium was a shape. Some would later deem and cigar-shaped. For a few seconds, perhaps a full minute, it hovered there. To the silent onlookers, caught between astonishment and a primal shudder of fear, the moment seemed to stretch into an eternity. The horrors of the recent war were still etched into the collective memory. The sky had once delivered bombs, but this was different. This was silent, graceful, and utterly inexplicable. Ardico Magnini would later recount the moment to the British Broadcasting Corporation. "I remember it all so clearly, on the sky. We were all astonished. He was not alone. As the object or objects moved on, something began to descend upon the field and Thebe. For hours after the incident, this angel hair, as it came to be known, lingered. Then, as mysteriously as it appeared, it disintegrated, sublimating into the air as if it had never been. The phenomenon was not confined to the stadium. That day, authorities across the Tuscany region received dozens of similar reports of unidentified aerial phenomena and the strange falling filaments. Days later, more of the silvery substance was discovered in the areas surrounding Florence, allowing for a chemical analysis. The leading chemist, Giovanni Caneri, penned a report that only deepened the mystery. The material, he wrote, was a fibrous structure with considerable mechanical resistance to tension and torsion. It was composed of a mixture of boron, silicon, calcium, and magnesium. When heated, the fibers blackened, but eventually left a transparent, melting residue. The substance was not toxic, but its composition and structure could not be explained by any known natural or industrial process. For a long time, the official explanation settled on a theory of mass migration by a rare species of spider whose webs, a phenomenon known as ballooning, had become unusually concentrated in the air that day. But for the 10,000 who were there, for the players who stood frozen on the pitch, this rationalization felt hollow. They had not seen spiders. They had seen something that silenced a stadium, something that defied the known laws of their world. The official story could not account for the sheer strangeness of the day, for the collective, silent awe that had gripped an entire cross-section of a city. The evidence vanished, the reports were filed away, but the memory remains, a chilling and beautiful scar on the timeline of the ordinary. It stands as a testament to those rare moments when the veil is lifted, revealing that the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, but stranger than we can imagine. In the humid air of a March morning in 1955, the motor vessel Joita cast off its lines from a harbor in Western Samoa. Its journey was routine, its destination a cluster of islands some 290 miles across the open Pacific. On board, a small community of 25 souls, 16 crew, and 9 passengers. Their cargo was a lifeline: food, water, and a precious consignment of medicine. Among the passengers was a doctor, Dennis Parsons, a man whose arrival was being urgently awaited.
Welcome to my channel. If you're fascinated by hidden truths, lost civilizations, and unsolved mysteries, you're in the right place. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like so you don't miss what's coming next. Because what you're about to see will change everything.
At a remote island infirmary. The voyage was expected to last no more than 2 days. But 2 days passed, and the horizon remained empty. A nervous quiet settled over the destination port. As a third day dawned with no sign of the ship, that quiet curdled into alarm. A full-scale search was launched. Radio operators scanned the frequencies, but the airwaves returned only static. Along its charted course, the vast blue expanse of the Pacific had swallowed the Joyita whole. For weeks, the search yielded nothing. Then, a discovery, far from where anyone was looking. A merchant ship, more than 1,000 miles off the Joyita's intended route, stumbled upon the derelict vessel. It was a waterlogged tomb, listing heavily, its deck awash with seawater. When salvage crews boarded the ghost ship, the mystery only deepened. They found a doctor's bag in a cabin, and inside, used, blood-stained bandages, a silent testament to some unknown emergency. The ship's radio was discovered to be perfectly functional, tuned precisely to the International Maritime Distress Frequency. A call for help had been prepared, but it was a call that no one ever heard. The ship's 4 lifeboats were gone. So too was the majority of the cargo. But of the 25 people, there was no trace, not a single sign. For weeks, aircraft and ships scoured the ocean, searching for the missing lifeboats, for any debris, for any hint of what became of the crew and passengers. International experts and investigators were summoned, but the trail was cold. Theories swirled. A sudden pirate attack, a mutiny gone wrong. Perhaps they had abandoned what they believed to be a sinking ship, only to be lost to the unforgiving ocean. But what truly transpired in those lost hours remains an unanswered question, a story whose final chapter was written on water. While some mysteries are swallowed by the immensity of the ocean, others lie dormant in the earth, waiting for millennia to pose their questions anew. In the year 1908, on the Greek island of Crete, an archaeological dig unearthed a simple disk of fired clay. At first glance, it was just another artifact from a forgotten age. But as experts began the careful process of dating their find, a profound surprise emerged. The disk was not merely ancient, it was between 3,000 and 4,000 years old. This was a voice not from classical Greece, but from a civilization far older, far more enigmatic: the Minoans. This remarkable people had built sprawling palaces and dominated the Aegean long before the rise of Athens or Sparta. Of their mighty kingdoms, little remains but impressive stone ruins and whispers of legend. The Phaistos disk, therefore, was more than an artifact. It was a potential key to this lost world, a direct message from the Minoan.
Stay with me, because what comes next has been hidden for a very long time, and only a few people know the truth behind it.
Mind. Immediately, scholars began the painstaking work of decipherment. Spiraling across its surface are 45 unique symbols, stamped into the clay with breathtaking precision. The images are clear, figures of people, animals, tools, and plants. Yet, for over a century, their meaning has remained utterly elusive, a script we can see but cannot comprehend. And within this linguistic puzzle lies an even greater technological anomaly. The symbols were not inscribed by hand. They were pressed into the wet clay with individual stamps. This was printing with movable type, the first known evidence of such a technique in human history, a revolutionary concept that would not be reinvented for thousands of years. The disc stands as a silent testament to a vast gulf of time, a voice from a civilization that speaks to us still. But we have forgotten how to listen. In an age defined by the printed word, one artifact remains a stubborn, silent testament to a language lost to time. Forged in the fires of the Minoan civilization, the Phaistos disc holds its secrets in a spiral of 241 stamped impressions. Dr. Gareth Owens of the Technological Educational Institute of Crete has dedicated the better part of a lifetime to this single, enigmatic object. His quest has been a meticulous pilgrimage through 1,000 ancient texts and forgotten cultures. He has presented the disc's inscrutable symbols to indigenous elders on disparate continents, to linguists and cryptographers, to the world's most brilliant minds. For decades, the response was the same, a profound and unyielding silence. The symbolic language had no known ancestor, no descendant, no key. Then, a breakthrough. A collaboration with an expert in ancient languages from Oxford began to painstakingly pry open the door to the past. Together, they deciphered a fragment of the narrative. The symbols, they believe, tell the story of a pregnant goddess, a powerful hymn to a matriarchal deity. The disc, it seems, was not a ledger or a law, but a sacred object at the heart of a fertility cult. Yet even with this success, the mystery only deepens. Which goddess does it honor? And what other messages lie dormant in the clay, waiting for a voice they may never have again? From the depths of antiquity, our gaze shifts to the cold vacuum of space, and to a legend born in the 20th century. In 1973, a work of science fiction ignited a rumor that has never truly been extinguished, that an alien satellite has been orbiting our planet for 13,000 years. This modern myth, however, has roots in a more concrete event. In 1960, radar operators for the United States Navy tracked an object of unknown origin in polar orbit, a feat neither the Americans nor the Soviets had yet achieved. The legend of the Black Knight was born. For years, it was a ghost story, a whisper with no evidence. But then, in 1998, images emerged from the space shuttle Endeavour. They showed a strange angular object, black against the luminescence of Earth. Official explanations were swift. NASA has repeatedly stated the object is nothing more than a thermal blanket, space debris lost during a spacewalk. But to many, the form seems too deliberate, the explanations too convenient. Proponents of a more extraordinary origin point to the pioneering work of Nikola Tesla, who, at the close of the 19th century, claimed to have received intelligent, rhythmic signals from space. They speak of sightings from the 1970s onward of an object that draws near to the Earth before vanishing again. A phantom glimpsed by amateur and professor legend reignites, a digital campfire story about a silent sentinel watching from the void. A spiral of fired Earth from a forgotten civilization, and a dark specter in the silent expanse above. One speaks of our deepest past, the other of a future we can barely comprehend. They are riddles separated by millennia, yet they ask the same fundamental question. Are we looking at messages we are not yet wise enough to understand? Or are we merely seeing a reflection of our own profound desire for meaning in a universe that offers only silence?